Hi and welcome to upsidersinformation. In today's video, I will go over this blood moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo. I was a bit resistant to make this video because lunar eclipses are like full moon on steroids, and full moons are oppositions between the luminaries, the sun and the moon, so they're confrontations, they're completions as things reach to a peak. So releases or terminations due to completions or confrontations. So the energy is harsh, and eclipses are volatile and unpredictable, so it gets compounded. But to be aware is to be prepared. Now, the moon is conjunct the south node of terminations and letting go, a signature of endings, and this is opposed Saturn, the so-called great malefic, though I rather call it the great teacher. It's the planet of responsibility, authority, structure, and limitations. It's also Chronos, the lord of time, as time is up. So with this is a confirmation of an ending. Now, Saturn is like the adult in the room, but in Pisces, it's like the adult is high. And with the stellium of planets in Pisces, the sign of the two fishes swimming in opposite directions, we lost the north. And even though the north node is there, which is like our North Star, and that's like saying let go and let God, because Pisces is also the sign of spirituality. Especially because the North Node recently conjuncted Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, and the only planet in rulership. Neptune is the lord of illusion, and where there's illusion, there's disillusion. Is also the lord of the illusion and deception, but also spirituality. So it has the widest expression from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it begs the question, what we do with what we have. And because we have this cluster of planets in Pisces with the sun illuminating this section of the sky, the ruler Neptune, the North Node, and Saturn, and Ceres, the sickle asteroid of harvest, to the asteroid of reaping your rewards, also the one that takes profit, and at times is also the symbol of death. This is the spotlight of the zodiac, Pisces, but because it's the sign of the hidden, we cannot yet see it, though we can feel something brewing under the surface. But the manifestations of it can be anywhere from a big water event, as Pisces is a mutable water sign, to another pandemic, as Neptune is boundless and rules that which spreads, like diseases or problems with drugs, like experiments go wrong, for example, or a big deception as it rules the media and mainstream media, or something foreign like alien life, or all of the above, as the WF talks about polycrisis. As they reset the system, they might throw you, I don't know, a fake alien invasion or whatever, because their system is crumbling and another one is to emerge. So this doesn't have to be bad, but God knows we're not good at change or letting go, even when necessary. So we may experience this as a crisis, but in Chinese, the character of crisis is two characters, one for danger and another one for opportunity. Because however this plays out is ultimately up to you. If you fall into oblivion, denial, and escapism, or you give it to God and surrender to a divine process, because however we judge it, as above, so below, and this might be a shaken to awaken. Now, this lunar eclipse is on the Saros cycle 123. And this started with a south node lunar eclipse at a critical degree of Aquarius in mid-August of 1087. Both charts have a stellium in Pisces and Jupiter at the same position. And for reference, that year there were many royal deaths, kings, queens, noblemen, etc. Among them, William the Conqueror, that he was succeeded by his son William II as a king of England. And nowadays, we are seeing ongoing speculations about King Charles' potential abdication due to health issues. And possible succession planning with Prince William have been reported, indicating preparations for a transition. But this doesn't just apply to the King of England, as any leader can fall. Then there was a fire in London back then that destroyed much of the city, including St. Paul's Cathedral. And nowadays we see fires everywhere. Then there was the relics of St. Nicholas were stolen, and Pope Victor III died after 1 year of pontificate. And nowadays we're seeing the Pope with health issues where he might not make it. And there was also the birth of John the Beautiful, or John the Good, the Byzantine emperor. And today, let's hope, is not the birth of the Antichrist, and that was a joke. Actually, some would argue it already exists, but that remains to be seen. Anyway, this eclipse is ruled by Mercury, the messenger planet of reasoning, also the merchant planet of trading. And if you're invested, you're probably halfway down, and if not, congrats, this is your time to buy. Not a guarantee that it won't go down even further before it goes up, but in trying to time the market, you might miss out, so you might want to scale in, not financial advice. Unfortunately, most get scared of the volatility, especially in crypto, and cut their losses, giving their gains back to the market, as orchestrated by the powers that were, as they're losing their grip and struggling to transfer the last bit of wealth away from us. But again, as it often happens in history, whenever they push too hard, it backfires, so this might blow up in their faces. I think in terms of problem, reaction, solution, and we know that they want to impose a CBDC, but people are aware of the agenda and they will reject it. Agendas work only when people are not aware, and that's why I make these videos. This is not to scare you, but to prepare you. Now, with Mercury in Aries, the hot temper sign that rules the head, and Mercury in shadow, soon to be retrograde after the eclipse, whatever this is, it will go over it 3 times. So cool your engines, because it will station retrograde at 9 degrees on the 16th and hopefully prompting a trend reversal. We'll see. But Mercury is in conjunction with Venus, the ruler of diplomacy and money too, which also stationed retrograde at 10 degrees, so almost at the same spot. So this is a trigger point. And to add insult to injuries, Venus is in detriment in Aries, because Venus is all about love and Mars is all about war. And the next eclipse, a partial solar eclipse, will be at 9-degree Aries too. So this is very significant, but more on that eclipse for the next video. So we have Mercury, talks, with Venus, diplomacy, in Aries, war, retrograde, reassessing, revisiting, redefining the rules of engagement, and renegotiating deals and peace treaties. We see that already. Then Mercury will go back into Pisces to retrieve more data, where Mercury is actually in detriment, so the messenger is going to be confused about the message, because as Mercury thinks, Pisces believes, and this could indicate a crisis on faith, where you have to rethink your beliefs, both personally and collective. Personally, depending on where this falls in your chart, so look for the Pisces-Virgo axis and also squares to it, so the Gemini-Sagittarius axis, to see if you have any planets within the 3rd decan or later degrees of those signs, to see how this can affect you. Collectively, a crisis of faith, I think, in the system or the systems, the government, the financial system, and especially the medical system, since this hits the health and drug axis. And this will be at the time of the solar eclipse as well. So I suspect more information coming about the pandemics and the vax. Now, this lunar eclipse is in a supportive trine with warrior Mars, that recently weren't direct, but is at falling Cancer, the animal that doesn't leave the house, where Mars is not going anywhere. If anything, is defending the home, the land, the homeland. So this could be some military action in defense or preparation for an offense, especially because Chiron, the wounded planet, is in Aries too, the war sign. So we're not immune to an attack either. But because the eclipse is in a harmonious sextile with Uranus, which is in a grand sextile with Saturn, this might result in a quick fix on a personal level or an opportunity to reinvent yourself. And on the world stage, this might be the US government favoring crypto as a reserve, which we are already seeing, but taking it to the next level, especially because the moon is in a trine with Pluto, which is transformation in Aquarius, the sign of tech, AI, and crypto. And as a subscriber mentioned in my previous videos, Uranus moving into Gemini later in July is another confirmation, and this might be through regulation and an injection of liquidity into the crypto space, maybe through more printing. We'll see. If that's the case, it will result in inflation, and that will coincide with the Neptune ingress in Aries at the end of the month. But if so, Saturn ingress in Aries too by the end of May might temper things down momentarily. Then Saturn will retrograde back out of the sign beginning of September, where inflation will be felt. And Jupiter in detriment in Gemini and making no aspect doesn't contribute much to the picture. Now, mid-year, when it ingress Cancer, it will favor silver. Now, in regards to gold, which is the only thing sustaining today, there are two theories. That the Fort Knox audit is to show that there is not enough gold and shift the reserve to crypto, in which case could harm gold and therefore even our allies. So I don't think that that's the way we're going. Or actually the opposite, as Richard Celente states, to show that we have more than enough to keep our dollar strong. Regardless, after a year of favoring silver, Jupiter will go into Leo mid next year to favor gold. Now, if we go to the US chart, we can see that the eclipse will impact the 10th and the 4th house, the 4th house of homeland and the 10th house of government. And that's why a conflict in the homeland is a possibility. The eclipse is squaring the US Mars, and transiting Mars is a tax, is conjunct at the midpoint between the Sun and Mercury, which represents communications, in the 8th house of investments, and squaring Chiron, the wound. So this could be an attack on the grid or a hack. And again, with Uranus moving into Gemini mid-July, that unfortunately correlates with wars too. But that's why it's important to always be prepared in case of needs. I always remember how shitty were people with toilet paper during the lockdowns, no pun intended. And last but not least, Trump is not out of the woods yet. With the solar eclipse impacting his financial axis and Saturn, Neptune, and Ceres in his 8th house of death rebirth, this could be another attempt. But if they were to succeed, they would only immortalize him. And the eclipse is in a T-square with his Sun, almost exact. And Uranus shock hits his MC of mission in the 10th house of career. And Mars attacks, conjuncts his Saturn, malefic, by orb in the 12th house of loss. So I'm afraid this can hit him hard. Anyway, I hope to have better news for you in the upcoming video. That's gonna be a partial solar eclipse. Solar eclipses are more beneficial as there are new moons and there are new beginnings. And because it's partial, it's supposed to be milder. We'll see. Anyway, with that, I will leave you today. It takes me a week to make these videos and a second to like, so please do. I thank you in advance, and I thank you for your time. And if you want a private consultation to navigate these times, my link is below, and so are other recommendations. And feel free to ask questions or make requests, and I'll try to make my best to honor them. Thanks again. See you in the next one. Namaste.